Hey, hello. Thank you for taking the time to listen in. The reflection I have for you today, I've entitled The Great Commission. You might have heard of it, right? The Great Commission. You've probably heard the words of Jesus in Matthew 28, verses 19 and 20, where Jesus says, "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I've commanded you," Jesus says to the disciples. And then he says to them, and behold, I will be with you always to the very end of the age. You know, in my experience, the most common understanding of the Great Commission is to tell others about Jesus, right? To tell others, to tell the world about Jesus. Now, there's nothing wrong with that understanding. Of course, we want to tell other people about Jesus, and we want to do a good job of it. But there's a whole lot more to the Great Commission than just telling people about Jesus. You know, in the first few pages of the Bible, we see that unlike everything else that God had created, when it came to making human beings, God made us in his image. It's totally different to the rest of creation. And so it means that in some finite and imperfect measure, humanity reflects the love and the justice and the beauty of God. And then as soon as we're told that we're made in God's likeness, God commands us in Genesis 1:28, he says, "Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth." What was God's intention when he created humanity? It's a big question, but it's essential to understand if we want to know who we are and why we're here, right, on this planet as believers. I think the answer to the question is found in putting those two realities together, right, of being made like God and then commanded to fill the earth. We take those two realities, we put them together in the context of the world that we read about in Genesis chapter 1 and 2, where we see total well-being, we see God's shalom, we see perfect relationships with God and one another, working in this life-giving garden. And so when we look at that, we can understand that as image bearers of God, we were made to flourish with our Creator and with one another. We were made to work as God does, right? To provide, to create order, to bring beauty, to release potential. We were made to reflect God's presence and God's identity and God's authority in throughout the world. Now, because of divine rebellion and sin, we know that the plan of God sabotaged. But imagine for a moment if Genesis 3 hadn't happened and Genesis chapter 1 and 2 were fulfilled. We would have a whole world that reflects God's love and justice and beauty through a diverse yet unified, working, flourishing humanity. Right? We would have a world of shalom. Yet thousands of years later, that still remains our greatest dignity and purpose. This command to fill the earth wasn't just for a select few, it was given to all of humanity. God's intention was to glorify himself through humanity flourishing to the ends of the earth. So God has not rescinded in his Genesis 1 command. In fact, Jesus renewed it in his command to go and make disciples of all nations. And so the Great Commission, just like the Genesis 1 command, applies to all of humanity in relationship with him. The original command in Genesis is often called the cultural mandate, because culture is what happens when people live together and work together. Right? Wherever we go, we create and influence culture through our words and our actions and our attitudes. We speak of ethnic or age or religious or business or work or family or church cultures, right? We speak about cultures, and each one is characterized by beliefs and social norms and forms and material traits. And so whether we plan it or not, culture will happen. But only now, as disciples of Jesus, we have the ability to influence it, to intentionally reflect God's love and justice so that everyone, all people, everyone around us can taste God's shalom and flourish. We're certainly told to tell other people about Jesus, right, as we have opportunity. No doubt, that's part of the Great Commission. But just as much, or maybe even more, we have the opportunity to fulfill God's purpose for humanity by intentionally creating and influencing culture towards God's desired well-being for humanity, His shalom. Think on that for a little bit. What a good God we have. Nothing's changed since the beginning. And Jesus just reaffirms all the time what God has already put in place, what God's desire is for humanity. So may God bless you and keep you as you bring His shalom to the world around you.